Bitcoin has both moon boys as well as the doom and gloomers on the edge of their seats currently, and there's some interesting things developing in the charts that I want to talk about today. I will be taking a look at Bitcoin as well as XRP on multiple time frames to get a better feel for the market overall. And as always, I will be taking a look at some Stuber Fib setups, how I use some of my favorite indicators, and so on. So with that, let's hop right into some charts here, Leggies. As always, I like to start on the weekly chart just because I think it's important to get that feel for the overall momentum in the trend. And honestly, guys, this is my biggest problem with Bitcoin is this very first chart that I look at. The weekly chart is the main thing that has me bearish. I'm still trading, the odd long setup on the 5-minute chart and stuff like that. But I've been very vocally bearish on this trend since about, I think it was June 13th. I did a stream and I kind of talked about some warnings and they played out to a T. And that's kind of what has me worried right now is because everything that I kind of outlined from that video has been playing out, and that includes where we're struggling with resistance right here. So basically what I was going for, you guys know in the Discord here that I'm constantly posting both ahead of time and after just to give more examples, because the more you see these things, whether or not they're still in play or still valid, I think just the more examples, the better, right? You'll just, as you start to see them, you start to see more of them, and then you can't unsee them. So, and sometimes it's hard to post them ahead of time because honestly, when I'm trading the 1-minute chart, like you have to be on the ball when you're reacting, because especially trading those shorter time frames, way more important to be able to react than predict. So if all of a sudden something catches my eye, I might only have 1 or 2 minutes, if that, to get into my position, set my stop loss, and then if I'm trying to share the position, share my explanation for why I'm taking it and all that stuff. On a 1-minute chart, that doesn't always fly. But I still think it's important to show them and how they work, because just seeing the structure of them over time, you're just going to see them more and more, right? And that's exactly what has me bearish on the weekly chart here. This will be repetitive for some of you, but just to give you kind of an update what's happening here, I have these red lines here. These are basically my structure breaks, actually. First, I'm going to show you this yellow one because I'm going to get rid of it. We obviously had this uptrend here with 3 touch points and then broke it. We could get a retest of the bottom of it, in which case we would technically be going a little bit higher. That's just basically to show that we lost an uptrend, right? So getting rid of that just to clean things up a little bit. Here's my red trend line here. Whether you want to go for wicks or candle bodies, I selected candle bodies. That's this red line right at where we found candle body support, basically back here. We obviously got this big candle close below this, and at that point I said, and I actually came pretty close to calling the exact bottom on the 4-hour chart just because of a certain pattern that played out there. But so I'm not perma bearish. I was totally open to the idea of this bounce. And honestly, that's kind of what has me worried, you guys. Like I just said, everything I was kind of talking about before has been actually playing out quite well. And basically, after we bottomed, I said, yeah, you know what? I think it absolutely makes sense that we end up bouncing towards that 68, 70,000, because that's just a classic Stuber Fib setup, right? I show these on the 1-minute, on the 5-minute, the 1 hour, the 4 hour, every time frame I show these, and every time frame you see them time and time again. Obviously not every time. Every trade setup fails sometimes, and that's why we have invalidation levels, and this one's no different. I'm not married to this idea. I'm just married to it until it proves otherwise. And it hasn't done that yet. So all that happened basically is we have this structure break and we pull back to the Stuber Fib. We open this weekly candle right at the 786 and just straight down from there. One thing I will say, we came very close to my TP1. For that kind of a setup, usually the 0.5 fib, that's kind of where I start downsizing my position. So we did get quite close. Maybe it front run a little bit. Maybe the worst is not over yet, right? Who knows? It just doesn't look great to me because we came up, and if this was a 5-minute chart or a 1-minute chart, I would be shorting the shit out of it right now. So to see it on a weekly chart, if anything, like I know a lot of people have a hard time even picturing the possibility of what I'm going to show here. But if this was any other time frame, this is how I would be looking at it. And it's really hard for people, especially in crypto, because we're all very impatient. We're a lot more degenerate. We don't have as much official stock market, experience, all that kind of stuff, right? Well, not necessarily, but most likely. So It's just one of those things that when you look at a weekly chart, this takes time to play out. And, as soon as we started bouncing here, people were telling me basically like, you're wrong. We're bouncing. Yeah, but I said we were going to bounce to here, right? That's just a typical setup. You get your sweep of your structure and then you pull back. Breakout trading is actually quite dangerous, and that's where a lot of people didn't start shorting until down here. So then they're getting wrecked, and then they're thinking, oh, now it's bullish. So then they start longing up into resistance, and we're just bouncing between 786, 786 kind of a thing. So yeah, to see us get rejected there, not all too crazy. I will say this, there's obviously time. There's 3 full days until this candle body closes, so it's basically only half complete. So maybe this was just a big liquidity grab to the downside, and we do end up just blasting off and breaking this structure. You know what, then I'll be a moon boy just like everybody else wants to be, and that's totally fine, because that's why we have invalidation levels, right? But as I'm looking at it right now, I ignored this exact setup last market cycle, and it hurt. The fact that I saw it and I did nothing about it, I lost a lot of money, you guys. And when that happens, you remember that feeling. And that's just why I've been playing the downside right now. Yeah, there's a lot of people, if you follow crypto Twitter and all that sort of stuff, yeah, everyone's saying, oh, bears are going to get wrecked. Bears are going to get wrecked. You know what? I can tell you in the last month and a half, my spot positions have gotten wrecked. And that's the thing, guys. I'm bearish. I'm still holding most of my spot, right? I'm mostly just trading the downside as a hedge. So my spot bags, yeah, they're getting hammered just like everybody else's when we see these retraces. My trading account, on the other hand, has been blowing up because I don't have a bias. I'll just trade the chart for the structure that it is, and it's mostly this trade setup, but on the shorter time frames. So to go and completely ignore that on the weekly time frame would just be irresponsible on my part, right? As far as, looking back to the previous few times we saw this pattern, another thing I wanted to point out was actually explaining the RSI. I know Jay recently had done a wonderful video with the RSI, and I had talked about this a little bit, but just going for some basic market structure and the RSI. Actually, sorry, before I go there, sorry to get ahead of myself here, I just want to point out the first Stuber fib that happened here, because this is already the second one, that one that I was just showing you guys with this structure break. Notice this is where I actually, this is where the structure officially broke for me, right? This is where we lost candle body support, got those closes down below. That's where I start looking for a pullback, right? Like, it's the same shit, right? We get that structure break, everybody gets bearish, starts shorting, we get some kind of a bounce, we are targeting all-time highs, people start getting extremely bullish again, start longing right into resistance, get wrecked, there we dump again, because that structure already broke. All that happened was we got this structure break and a pullback. Now explaining what the RSI does on top of this, look at this crazy divergence on the RSI. This doesn't necessarily mean that the buy-in is overbought, right? I know a lot of people misunderstand the RSI that way. They think if the RSI is up at these levels, it's overbought. Technically, it's the relative strength index, so when it's way up there, there is a shit ton of strength as long as the trend is to the upside. What worries me about this is we get kind of this, whether you want to call it a Stuber fib or a double top, honestly, it's pretty much the same thing, right? But we basically get up to the same price level, but with significantly less strength, right? We went from this strength down to this strength, and we're targeting all-time highs, trading into resistance. There's just zero reason to be extremely bullish when you're attacking the same level of resistance you already could not break through with a drastically decrease in momentum. It just doesn't make sense. So that's a reason why I took that chart very seriously. On top of Stuber fibs, that is my favorite confluence to add to it. Out of all the indicators and everything, this one specific divergence, it's not every divergence, it's just that overextended down towards the normal levels. I really like that RSI divergence. And just to kind of go over how it's played out in the past, the same thing, right? Just a little bit of a structure loss. We lose that candle body support. We get that RSI that goes from extreme over conditions back here down to that 70 level. with that structure break, and boom, that was our bear market, right? We actually got it twice last market cycle. We got a 50% correction from the same signal. We lost our candle body support, got that RSI divergence, boom, 50%, boom, 77%. So far, we're only at about 25%. Going back to previous market cycles, this same thing. We had this candle body support here, broke it, got that RSI divergence, boom, 68% nuke, which was COVID. I'll give it that. There was a black swan event in there, but the charts had that same signal. That's called even bigger crashes than that before, right? Last bear market, the 20K cycle top. This is where I started trading, right here. So don't feel bad if you're buying the top on things. I did it too. But there, we lose that candle body support, and we get that RSI divergence, and boom, that was bear market on, the infamous descending triangle there. So absolutely massive. The thing that scares me about what Bitcoin's doing right now is see what happens when we get that signal. What kind of a fib level did we end up coming to test, you guys? That's just my favorite fib pocket, right? From this whole trend here, we get that reversal signal, and we came right back, basically filled the 786, 886 perfectly, and then bull market on from there, right? Not saying it has to happen like that again. Just understand that anything is possible. I never thought that was going to happen back here either. Anything can happen. The markets don't give a shit about our feelings. They make that very clear every day. So that's just something that's on my radar right now, that if this is going to play like a full reversal, and guys, I have to warn you, this is a trigger warning right now. I'm not saying this is probable, but it's absolutely possible, because if this was any other time frame, this is basically what I'd be looking for. I'd be looking at playing the range, which already did play out, right? We had our structure break, the Stuber fib entry. You get your range play to that 214 fib. So that part is already played out. But if this plays out as a full reversal, I'm not really seeing much reason, if we start losing support and setting more lower lows. If this were a 5-minute or a 1-minute chart, I know what levels I would be targeting. And I know it's hard to detach yourself from dollar amounts, and it's easy to start thinking that there's no fucking way we're going back down to those levels. I've thought that in previous market cycles before, and it has in fact happened. So all I'm saying is it can absolutely happen, because really, it's not like there was a ton of trading in some of these levels, right? There wasn't a ton of support. There wasn't a ton of consolidation. There was a little bit down here, so maybe we get some kind of a bounce there, and then continue on to the downside. Who knows? Maybe it doesn't happen at all. All I'm saying is, if this does happen and I completely ignored all these big red flags, I would be so upset with myself, especially when I ignored it last cycle already and got burned by it. I would be just devastated if it happened again. So I did sell a little bit of my spot. Like I said, I'm still holding most of it, but I'm actively more so searching for a bearish trend as far as how I'm trading, right? That's just kind of my doom and gloom for the Bitcoin chart on the weekly. Like I said, I'm still open to the idea of all-time highs. If we just end up blasting through here, I won't be butthurt. That's the thing, as far as being a responsible trader, that's why we have invalidation levels, right? It's just that my invalidation level is, up here, whereas a lot of people's invalidation level is going to be down here, right where we end up finding support. If we just start nuking down here, people are going to think that Bitcoin's dead. Once again, we'll see the 500th time that Bitcoin died or whatever. We'll get some sort of a crazy wick. Everyone will sell into that. It'll be a capitulation event. Again, very theoretical, not saying this is going to happen. But what would happen if we get down there is people would start panic selling the shit out of it, and we would get a very, very steep recovery, in my opinion, and that's where it would be bull market on. Everyone's talking about max pain and knowing what max pain is, even though it's their first crypto market cycle. Don't tell me, if this is your first crypto market cycle, I'm sorry, you don't know what max pain is. Crypto is a hateful beast, and it causes a lot of pain. And I can promise you that, 25% correction is nothing for Bitcoin, right? I come from trading Bitcoin when it would pump and dump 40% in a single day, right? It's calmed down a lot since I've started trading it. So yes, the fluctuations will be smaller and stuff like that. But understand that this is not max pain. I will argue the fact that, you know what, if we end up taking off like this, and a lot of people are bearish without invalidations or anything like that, you know, there's a lot of traders out there who, you know, if we break out, they're just stuck in their way and they're doubling down on their shorts, tripling down all the way up. I'm not like that, you guys. I don't look at this with all too much of a emotional bias at all. I just look at colorful charts and I trade them. So honestly, if we break to the upside, I'm not getting wrecked. My spot bags are going to do great, and I'm most likely going to change my trading bias, just like I did back here. Maybe some of you guys will remember this. Oh, sorry, just going to get rid of a few things. But back here, I actually called this bottom, I think within like $20 or something, because I was thinking, you know, some sort of a Stuber retest there, the 786, as well as there was this RSI divergence, right? I was just talking about that on the bearish side. Same goes for the top side, right? We went from, you know, oversold conditions, which again, that could have meant there's a lot of strength. But when we come back to that level, coming back to the Stuber fibs with a drastic change in strength, right? We had way more strength coming to this support level the second time. So that's where I was actually bullish on this setup. But as soon as I went into that position, I basically said, you know, my target is 68, 70,000. We've got to those levels. I've also mentioned in several streams now that the reason why I love doing these videos so much, well, one of the reasons, is because it acts as my trading journal. And when I keep saying things, then I'm going to remember it, right? And I remember specifically saying through many streams that I was talking about this potential bearish scenario. I wasn't even believing this scenario at that point, is the thing, right? I was saying that I did not believe it was going to be a thing, but if it did, I wanted to keep talking about it because I did not want to get struck with FOMO as I trade into a bearish chart pattern, right? It would be a lot different if, let's say, we never did close below this wick. But since we did get that structure break, this pullback is totally expected, right? Like that bounce did not catch me off guard in the slightest. My account's still bigger than it was down here because I started trading the upside as well as the downside. I'll trade either direction. I honestly don't care as long as things are volatile because I have a system in place. I have certain things I look for. I have certain invalidations, take profits, and from there I just kind of nibble as I go, right? So let's get into some more degen timeframes here. I want to load up the 1 minute as I do. Yeah, so I ended up, I was talking earlier before starting this stream that I had started a little bit of a short position. So this was a messy one. I kept my position fairly small. This is definitely micro-analyzing, but you guys know that's what I fucking love to do because I'm a total degen. But basically, as we kept trending higher, I mean, we had this high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high. Oh God, I'm confusing myself now. Higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low. So basically, well, I went more with the candle bodies with my red line here. Again, very micro analyzing. I'm not suggesting you trade this way. I love trading the 1 minute and being a degenerate like that because it works for me, but it's definitely not for everybody. It's stressful. It takes a lot out of you mentally, emotionally. It destroys you. So careful with trading like that, you guys. But this is just, I'm looking at structure for what it is, right? We lose those candle body support. I ended up taking a little bit of a short. My stop loss is basically, I think it's at 65888 at this point. So it's already in a profit. I did end up closing a quarter of it, as I said earlier in the stream, basically just when we started showing signs of life, right? Because as we started all of a sudden getting some sort of a break like that, I wanted to make sure I lock some in, because that's the thing, guys. Even the fact that we broke this little level here, again, very micro analyzing, sure, but the fact that we broke that level, I would be more open to the idea of, you know, I wouldn't necessarily want to short right now because there's a potential for a Stuber fib that way. I'm not interested in bullish positions right now, but that's just how I would look at a typical Stuber fib, right? If I don't even feel like taking a hedge right now, to be honest, and I might regret that because that is a typical Stuber setup happening right in front of us. It also lines up with the higher low of the auto charting tools. I just am having such a hard time pulling the trigger on bullish setups lately. And since I'm in 2 short positions, you know what? I'm just going to let it ride for now. But yeah, potential setup there, invalidation. I always give more wiggle room than the 115 fib. That's just there as a reminder to myself to leave some wiggle room, basically, right? Not setting my stop loss right below support here, because so often there's a liquidity grab. That kind of gets towards this 115 quite often. But like I said, I like to use a bigger, a little more room, little wiggle room. And also, you guys, when I enter positions, just in case anybody is taking this, obviously not financial advice, because again, I'm personally not. I'm holding on to my shorts for now. But when I look at a trade like this, just like I was talking about with taking profits earlier, I don't like being an all or nothing kind of a guy. When I enter a position, it's like I'm starting a position here and laddering in on the way, laddering in heavier as I get closer to invalidation, just because I want to drastically improve my average entry if I do get stopped out, right? And that's not saying I'm going into a position, doubling down, tripling down, quadrupling down. It's having a position in mind and then splitting that up, right? So I'm removing risk, smaller risk, smaller reward kind of a thing. But if you end up filling all those entries, then you have a better average entry, right? So that's personally how I like to get into trades myself. Yeah, let me catch up on a couple things. Actually, I want to load up the old XRP chart here. You know, I do like that we have 2 buy signals basically at the same level here. And they are, like I said, we did get a higher buy signal here. My only thing is there's mixed signals because we still have those lower sell signals. That's kind of how I like to use this Trendmaster indicator. Is I like to look at the buy and sell signals, but not playing them individually. And I more so like to use them to see which way the market's trending, and then looking for Stuber fibs and that sort of thing. So right now there's still sell signals trending to the downside. I'm just bearish in general. And like I said earlier, I added to my position, so I did drop my average entry down, but I did enter right at the 786 basically. And just to show you, let me bring up the 4-hour, I believe is what I was looking at. Yeah, that's the one. So again, just looking at structure for what it is. Again, kind of micro analyzing this trend here, but that is where we lost that higher low support, right? This whole trend here, this was our high. Where did we set a higher high? Higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high. I guess our higher low doesn't really change there. Basically still down here. Higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low. We lose that. We end up getting that pullback to the 786, 886 fib pocket. The one thing I will say for the bulls right now is this setup has already technically happened once, right? We did already come into the super fib pocket. If I still had, I usually like to use the 0.5 fib as my first take profit, but I removed it just because it keeps my charts cleaner, but definitely would have been hit down here. So the fact that we came up and tested it again, yeah, you know, there is a little bit of strength there, but resistance is resistance until it's broken, and it hasn't been broken yet. So just like my weekly Bitcoin chart, I'm still looking at this bearish, even if it gets invalidated, whatever. I've already taken some profits off my position and my stop loss is in a profit, so I don't really care, right? That's the beautiful thing about being emotionally unattached from the market after it's beat you down so many times over the years, right? It's just numbers and colors and candles and buttons, right? So yeah, I'm just kind of looking at this. Yeah, stop loss is just above this structure back here. So I'm hoping this position runs. I've already paid myself a little bit from it, but I'm hoping it runs with the rest of it. Starting to see W's trending to the upside as well. So, you know, there is signs of strength there. Maybe I should close another quarter of that position, actually. This is one of those times, you guys, where... let me just see how this candle closes. This is one of those times where I know I said it earlier in the chat. Um, Sorry, I'm just sidetracked for a few seconds here. Yeah, I'm going to close a quarter of my XRP short here. Again, just to make sure that I pay myself a little bit, because something came up, and I always say it's more important to react than predict. And you know what? Maybe we just keep dumping off a cliff here, and then it's too bad I have a slightly smaller position. But you know what? When I enter a position, especially since I trade short time frames, I trade with a lot of leverage. Um, I look for reasons to get out of my position. Just like I'm looking for reasons to get into a position, once I'm in that position, I'm looking for reasons to get out, because the most important thing is to protect yourself. After that, obviously, it's making money. So if I can make a little bit of money and then protect myself, that's your ideal situation, right? So now, you know, if I end up coming up and getting stopped out with basically just enough to cover my fees, at least at this point I'll be like, hey, you know what? At least I did take a little bit of profits down here because something caught my eye. That's the fact that the buy signals are trending to the upside, and now W's are also trying to trend to the upside. It doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to reverse to the upside here, but it's at least a warning to me, using the indicators as risk management to pay myself a little bit. Just, again, looking for reasons to get out of my position. You guys have probably noticed already, pretty cool with the Trendmaster indicator. I think I pointed this out already, actually, the StuTube trading indicator. So if you do have it, you can just automatically get my settings. But again, it's more so how I use the indicator rather than each individual signal. That being said, guys, check this out. I just noticed this. I'm going to delete all my drawings here. Let's bring up that Trendmaster indicator on the weekly chart and check this out. It actually gave it a 5-star rating, net profit of 1400%. It nails these calls on the weekly time frame. You know, even though it might feel like it's a little bit late when you really zoom out, I mean, that's still called a 50% drop there. Yeah, it called the long there. Where are we at from now? 123, whatever, or 114%. This thing basically has been 100% accurate, if you ask me, other than right here. The COVID Black Swan event did trick it. It thought that the trend was shifting because we lost support there. That's the only one on this chart that I can see that really failed. Yeah, this would be our first one back here at a juicy 400 and let's call it 420, but I think it's about 430 US dollars was the first time this buy signal would have triggered, and it's just called these trend reversals beautifully. So check that out on the longer time frames as well. And that's one thing, guys, I have considered that in the last few streams as well, that we did find support along this buy trend. So there is still that going for it. But again, I'm usually more so into market structure first and looking at indicators for confluence later. So, you know, although yes, maybe the bearish Stuber fib already did play out, just the same, maybe this buy signal rebuy along the trend, maybe that's already played out because we traded back into resistance, right? I mean, who knows? But as it stands, that buy trend is still intact, so I will give the bulls that. With that, let's keep the degen timeframes on here, and I am, oh yeah, see, look at that. So that's one of those reasons why I said when I do take a position, I ladder in, right? So if I'm laddering in, like, let's just say, like, you know, what was it, a sixth, a third, and a half is generally what I like to do. Or lately, I've also just been doing, you know, half up here and then half down here, closer to the invalidation. But either way, just basically laddering in when I have my trade signal, and it just helps bring your average entry down, right? So if it does end up getting stopped out here, then at least it's a softer blow. And if it ends up playing out, then you got a better entry, right? Again, I'm still just... I'm not pulling the trigger on a long, but yeah, we'll just watch that. I want to catch up on some messages here. I see there's a bunch of people messaging here. Lambo at the gym crying because Stu said it's nuked down. Aw, I'm sorry. Don't worry, bro. When I get invalidated, I'll be a moon boy with you. It's nothing personal, and that's the thing. I'm not married to my idea. I just haven't been invalidated yet, and I just have no reason to ignore my own trade setup. Is all. It's also simple when he explains it. XRP zero. Well, I'm not going to say XRP is going to zero. However, I also think it's ridiculous that you see on like crypto Twitter and stuff like that. The other day, you guys, I swear to God, I saw somebody say that XRP was going to 9,000 US dollars. The market cap of that coin would have to jump to like over 500 trillion or something like that. Those people clearly have no understanding of anything. Don't listen to those people. Even 500 US dollars, that's way too fucking high. It would have a way higher market cap than Bitcoin. That's just well, I guess anything can happen. Like I said, the market doesn't give a shit what I think. But that being said, like obviously it could have a good run this bull market. I don't want to shit on it all that much, right? Like I more so find it funny that some people think that it's going so high, right? Where it's just ridiculous. The market cap doesn't make sense. But no, I've owned XRP before. I don't anymore, but I rode it from like the end of 2017. I rode it from like 70 cents up to like $3.50 or something like that, and held on to the bitch right back down to $1 before I panic sold. So, I have experience with XRP, and one thing that I have known about it for years now is that XRP loves to pump and dump. It pumps aggressively, but it doesn't really build structure along the way. And therefore, it ends up just nuking when it does nuke as well, right? I mean, for example, if I just remove some drawings here, let's just remove some indicators. The fact that we did drop this little bit of structure here, if this trend is changing to the downside, and like I said, so far it is just a typical Stuber fib setup. There's not really a ton of trading that happened on this pump, right? It just, when XRP goes, when it breaks out a consolidation, it fucking breaks out. And that's the thing. If we break structure to the downside and we're consolidating, if this consolidation breaks to the downside, I mean, there's no reason we wouldn't get, again, just a typical Stuber fib reversal would take us down to some levels that not a ton of people want to hear about, right? That would be, you'd be looking at least a 25% correction to the downside. So, and again, guys, not saying it has to happen. That's just something to keep on your radar, that it's a very realistic possibility is the only thing, right? And that's the thing. When I'm shitting on people on Twitter calling it for how it is, because you see people with over 100,000 followers and stuff like that telling people that, oh, we're going so much higher, we're bullish. I saw people saying that unfollow anybody who's bearish. But you know what? Anybody who's been bearish with me over the last month has been crushing the trades, whereas those people are just leading the lambs to the slaughter, right? They're basically pumping meme coins and stuff and dumping on their followers and not even showing any charts for backing up anything they're saying, right? That's the difference. Is a lot of those influencers with the really big followers are not actually traders. So there's a big difference there. If they're not showing any charts to back up what they're saying, then really consider who you follow and who you unfollow, right? If they're saying to unfollow people who are bearish, yet bearish people were able to adapt to the market and be ready for a 25% correction, while their followers were just frantically longing every dip they saw in the lower time frames, getting wrecked, but then they're saying to unfollow people who are bearish, that's just, again, it's irresponsible. It's cruel. It's actually disgusting. It pisses me right off that those people have that big of followings and are just straight up lying to their people. Because the thing is, guys, there's nothing wrong with being bullish. I don't want to sound like a complete asshole towards the bulls, because I've been a moon boy for the last 2 years or so. I know what it's like, and I have absolutely been there with you guys. What I do have the problem with is if people pretend that there's not any red flags. Because there is, right? There's plenty of them. I pointed them out already with the structure and the fibs and, everything that goes with it. There's a lot of red flags. That's all I'm saying. So to just pretend that they're not there at all, that's just not how we trade. And in fact, as traders, you're always supposed to consider both scenarios, right? We break resistance like this, yeah, I'm bullish again. But that's the thing, right? If you can't react to what's happening with the charts, then there's a difference between investing and trading, I guess. Investing, sure, if you want to invest based on fundamentals and stuff like that, absolutely. I have not traded on anything news related in years. The ETFs, I haven't traded on. Any of those FOMC meetings, any sort of meeting like that, inflation numbers, anything, I don't trade based on those. If anything, I avoid the market, let the structure decide what it's going to do for a few hours, and then start trading the more recognizable market structure again, right? Because if any news or any fundamental is going to affect the price, the chart structure will show it. And that's one thing. My first market cycle got me absolutely wrecked, which is why I started with a very small portfolio. And basically, I got into the market, like I said, at this level. I understood I had no idea what I was doing, so I was smart enough to start small. But I got wrecked because I kept, anything I wanted to buy, I was reading the news, I was looking at Google, I was seeing, hey, what's going on with this coin, what's going on with that coin, and I kept seeing all this bullish things. You see all these partnerships, people start accepting a coin, all this bullish fundamentals, but the chart structure did not show it. And that's where, being a trader, you have to be able to understand that if there's any fundamentals or news that is going to affect the charts, then the charts are going to show it, right? Yeah, what else? What can we look at here? Yeah, see, Bitcoin's trying to get to that range target of the Stuber fib. Did anybody take that, by the way? Like I said, I never, but did anyone take that bullish Stuber? And something to remember, guys, remember what time frame chart you're playing, right? If you're playing a 1 minute chart, you should be taking profits on a 1 minute chart. You're not entering on a 1 minute chart and trying to find a 4-hour target, right? My general rule of thumb, I talk about this every week, is after about 10 candles, I start considering if I should be downsizing my position or not. I'm not saying that after 10 candles, I close my position or anything like that, but after about 10 candles, just because that's a reminder of what time frame I'm playing, right? If I'm playing the 1 minute, within 5 to 10 minutes, I'm at least considering what's going on around me in the charts. A 1 hour chart I get into, within a few hours, then I have to start considering that, 3, 5, 10 hours later, I need to start considering, hey, has the move maybe played out? Should I maybe be downsizing? All that sort of thing. So just kind of a little half-assed rule of mine, I guess. Like if I entered on this drop down here, I'd already be considering taking a little bit of profits because there's absolutely the chance we don't make it to this level. That's just me personally. Like I said, I'm always looking for reasons to start getting out of my positions when I get into them. Well, it does look like we're going to hit that target. Who knows, right? But yeah, just another classic Stuber fib setup, getting that higher low. We talked about this in Captain Pumpy, Jay, his video with the auto charting tools. I actually had a section in that as well, talking about pulling fibs from these swing points that the auto charting tools brings up. Quite effective as well. And again, we did have that structure break as well. But yeah, I'm going to consider that target hit. Got very close. Sometimes it's front run, but yeah, nice little pop, right? Because if you laddered in along these fibs here, your average entry is probably somewhere around the 886. And yeah, obviously it's a 1 minute chart, so take it for what it is, right? You don't use Stoch RSI for momentum? I don't. I've seen it used well from other people and stuff. I've just personally never used it. I'm just a creature of habit. I use the regular RSI and I use the MDX Trendmaster indicators. I honestly don't use any other indicators out there. Trigger warning was too late. You're already dead. Sorry, bro. You can hear the fear in my XRP short position. Absolutely. Like I said, I look for reasons to get out of my positions once I'm in them. I'm still glad I'm holding this right now. But yeah, I'm definitely willing to take a little profits off the table because I don't know what's going to happen for sure, right? I basically, the way I like to trade is I basically get into scalps. I'm very quick to close the first quarter to half of my position, and then I hope the rest catches a home run trade. I'm not banking on a home run trade, but I'm also not closing my entire positions because if it happens, I want to catch part of it, right? Um, so yeah, we're gonna have to see what happens here. Yeah, still holding that buy trend. Ooh, we got a shift in W's. We got a lower W here. Just a little bit of a warning. Nothing too crazy yet, but a little bit of a warning. Trendmaster, Stu Fib. Yeah, the Trendmaster. Yeah, that's the indicator that has the tube trading setting. That is just this, right? That's just this indicator. The buys and sells and a few W's basically. Yeah, I use that. I use trend dynamic because one, I just love how beautiful it makes the charts. But also these round W's, these reversal warnings. Actually, when these indicators first started coming out basically a couple years ago, one of my favorite strategies right off the bat was just watching which way these round W signals are trending. Just like kind of what I was saying with the buy and sell signals. Just watching which way they're trending. Well, they're starting to trend to the upside again. So yeah, again, even though they're a reversal warning, not taking every signal as factual on its own, right? I'm more so using them again just as confluence. Which way does it look like the market is trending? And then obviously trying to find those fibs as well. Perfect example would be right here. Just from an eyeball, it looks close, but we got higher trending W's, and it looks like very close to a Stuber fib, never quite reached it, but got the higher W. So just a sign that, hey, maybe this is going to be front run a little bit, basically, right? But yeah, and then I use auto charting tools. I really like those points as well, pulling Fibonacci's from them and so on. Liquidations I use a little bit. I only have the high leverage liquidity because that's more likely to happen quickly. Right, like we came down here, grabbed this high leverage bit of liquidity down here. Can we see anything else right now? Let everything load here again. Yeah, see, so there's another reason why I'm open to the idea of getting stopped out on the rest of my XRP position, why I was willing to take a little bit of profits. Here's just another thing confirming that, hey, there is some liquidity up here, some late shorters to the market that maybe the market makers push up, grab this liquidity, and then carry on to the downside. But I would take a big loss if we ended up all the way up there. So, well, I don't know if big loss is the word, but either way, I would take a loss. So I'm just not interested, right? I can always find a new trade later. In fact, something that I would be looking for if we do end up climbing to the upside, just again, using these auto charting tool signals, look for some sort of Fibonacci pull. Possible short opportunity, kind of that whole Stuber fib double top area. That could happen in the near future, right? Who knows? Do I see, what's that? I see $22 XRP price forecast. Yeah, I just don't know about that. I don't know. The way I feel about XRP right now reminds me, even though, yes, this was a nice pump to the upside, It really reminds me of the pump we had when I think it was last summer, basically exactly a year ago. XRP pumped really aggressively when it came out that they won their court case against the SEC, but that pump only lasted 2 or 3 days and then nuked right back down. XRP is it's famous for pump and dumping. And you guys, that's normal, right? It's normal for price levels to be retested after a structure break. Like, even if this is a bullish trend, it would be totally normal to pull down to these levels, right? Markets don't move one direction. That's why it's important to take profits along the way, because that way, even if you're wrong, but you catch part of the move, at least you can make money even if you're wrong on your prediction, right? That's why it's important to take profits along the way, especially when trading with leverage. Yes, this is the Trading View RSI. I took away the moving average on it and just like changed the colors and stuff. But yeah, that's just the relative strength index. Still one of my favorite indicators. I've used it since the beginning. The reason I don't use the 618 fib, it is respected a lot, and I totally understand why people use the 618 fib. I just find that so often candle bodies will respect the 618, but you'll still get that wick to the 786. And lately, especially this market cycle, I've been finding it that even candle bodies respecting the 786 and wicks respecting the 886. So I just find that it's a tighter invalidation, right? You're going to get less entries, but you're also going to take smaller losses if you're wrong on your position, right? I just find the 786, 886 have been working out so well this market cycle, so they're kind of my go-to. Oh, you rode that long to $1 on XRP? Nice. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, XRP's volatile. It's a great coin to trade and everything. I'm not personally all that bullish on it. I think it already had its big hype cycle because I watched it go from pennies. Well, actually, I wasn't involved yet, but I was starting to watch the crypto market and I saw XRP go from pennies. I finally was able to get a hold of it because it was also hard to get in crypto exchanges when I started. Like, it wasn't as easy as just oh, here's 30 different exchanges you can sign up to real quick. It was a different time back then. And I remember having a hard time finding a place where I could get XRP. And finally did when it was like, yeah, like I said, it was around 70 cents or something like that. But yeah, it's always been volatile. And I think it is absolutely something that I should start watching it more and trading it more, honestly. And not just the bear side. I'm not a perma bear. I will trade it to the long side as well. I just haven't recently at all. I've been mostly just trading Bitcoin. Really, I just kind of feel like altcoins are basically Bitcoin with leverage already attached, right? So like if I'm trading Bitcoin, I can use 69x leverage, where if I'm trading XRP, I'm only using 20 or 25, right? I say only, but it just doesn't really matter. It's just, generally speaking, they're all going to move together. They're all going to follow Bitcoin. Doesn't always happen, and especially XRP, sometimes it likes to do the exact opposite. Bitcoin's pumping, XRP's dumping, and vice versa. Not all the time, but sometimes. But in general, altcoins move with Bitcoin, except more aggressively. So I basically just look at that as extra leverage. And then when there's less trading volume and stuff like that, I was mentioning earlier about getting liquidated on a different exchange. I was using like 25x leverage on an altcoin, and my stop loss was in a profit, and I got liquidated anyways. So that's just kind of what scares me about trading altcoins. Whereas with Bitcoin, you usually don't have that crazy slippage. It can happen, obviously, but usually you don't have that as an issue. Hopefully my cat isn't screaming over my mic here. I can hear her freaking out in the hallway. Yeah, what else? What else? That's about all I really wanted to go over today, guys. Um, yeah, so honestly, my opinion, things don't look all that great for crypto right now, but I mean, obviously, invalidations do happen. We could absolutely, like yesterday, we nuked pretty hard. I really wouldn't be all too surprised to see a further bounce, especially with how this is forming right here. I would not at all be surprised to see us test, a Stuber fib of this bigger range, right? Just like what I showed on the weekly chart, that hey, we had a structure break, pull back to get that pullback, right? So it would be totally normal, and it could still remain, still keep my bearish thesis, just kind of trade up towards that, all the way up towards 68,000, and then dump off a cliff. Absolutely a possibility, right? That would just be losing this structure, starting a downtrend, pulling back to that Stuber fib or double top area. Just something to watch out for, right? So I'm definitely open to that idea as well. I trade the shorter time frames anyways, so I don't really care what happens. I'm in and out of trades all day, every day. I don't mind finding a new position. So, um, thought that was my XRP position. Uh, all right. Anyways, legends, I think that's about all I wanted to go over today. Hopefully, you found this stream very useful. For those of you watching this on my YouTube channel a little later, if you are interested in my favorite indicators plus access to the VIP Discord, there's an additional 10% discount on checkout using the link down below. I'm personally doing most of my trading on Blofin these days. No KYC exchange. For those interested, I've maxed out the cashback on my affiliate links, so you actually get 20% back on your trading fees, as well as I actually have a pretty sick promotion, a trading promo here. Let me actually pull this up here, just in case anyone is interested. Basically deposit bonuses as well as trading bonuses. Currently, this is running until August 1st, I believe it is. So make sure to read the fine print with how the rewards work and that sort of thing if that is something that you're interested in. So yeah, if you need a new non-KYC exchange or just want to back up in general, check out my link down below for that as well. With that, I'm out. Stay safe, my friends. Peace.